What's up, everybody? This is Isaiah, one half of your homeless heroes. Maine's resting as usual, but we just came back from actually giving. We rushed back. We started our morning going to church. We switched our church services to an early church service, 8 a.m. service, so that way we can get out. We had a routine that we were doing before. She would get up about 6 a.m. or so, and she would make spaghetti and prepare everything, and then we'd go to church, and then we would give. But we switched our schedule around, so we literally just rushed in. So she's resting. So you guys got me today. So thank you guys for joining. We appreciate you guys for joining this. This is our fifth live stream, I believe, and we're excited. And our topic today is why do we help? Why do we help the homeless? Why do we go through all of this trouble to help? And again, we're just about 30 minutes removed from being out there giving. It was fantastic today. We always get so much joy and gratitude from helping our homeless brothers and sisters. And it's about 109 degrees out, so we were able to give out some cold waters and some food. And I'm telling you, it's like these people feel like they hit the lottery when we give them these cold waters, because they do have resources where they can get water from, but most of the times they just aren't cold waters like we have, like you and I have in our refrigerator to be able to enjoy. So we're gonna just kind of jump right into this and talk about why do we help. And all of these lives that I have, the reason that we do these is to engage with you all, but also because I read the comments. Not so much Maine, but I read the comments myself, and I like to try to have live streams where I can openly discuss some of these questions or frustrations that some people have, or misunderstandings that people have about why it is that we do what we do. Many individuals in the homeless community believe that we're from a church or a shelter or outreach. Today, someone asked me, they said, "Hey, are you guys privately? Are you a private organization?" I said, "Yes." It's me and my fiance, and we're out here doing this ourselves. We don't have any other assistance, and I don't say that as a slight to anybody else. I probably say it because of the fact that I want people to realize that they don't have to wait or depend on an organization to be able to come and assist in any type of fashion. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But there are just good people, or people who at least care, or at least see the plight and see what's happening, and they're willing to come out and invest their own time and whatever resources they may have to be able to assist as best they can. So we're going to jump right into this. Why do we help is one of the things that we see. Why are you guys going out and doing this? Almost what's in it for you? Some people say, "Oh, you're doing it for the views. You're doing it for," it's like, we don't get that many views. We don't have any funding. We don't have any additional resources. So we do this, and we had a segment that we talked about the other week about why do we document our acts of kindness towards others, and we laid out the reason why we do it. So people assume that because we're recording it, that we're doing this because we have some type of ulterior motive or some type of agenda, and that just isn't the case. We do it because a few reasons, and we're going to get into that right now. The first reason, and we talked about this in our very first live stream, is the fact that getting a job just isn't enough. All right, so getting a job alone is not going to be enough to be able to solve the problem. And it's important that we understand and realize that today, literally, again, I know I sound like a broken record, I'm repeating myself, but not even half an hour ago, we were just out there in the heat getting out. And there was a girl that we encountered. You guys will probably see it once we get the segment edited and we get it up. She walked up to me. We visited a new area. There was a homeless gentleman that came. He saw us giving. He walked all the way across the parking lot, and flagged us down, and he grabbed some food. He says, "Hey, there's some other people over here on the other side." And they're really good about that. They will share and tell, there's other people that are in need if you guys have the resources. So we asked him where, and we drove around to the area where he was talking about. And we saw a couple of tents, and we helped some individuals out there, and the girl walked up, and she was visibly crying. And I couldn't really hear what she said. I thought she had asked me, did we have some more food, or did we have any left? And I asked her if she wanted some, and she didn't. She lost her wallet. She says, "Have you guys seen a black wallet laying around here?" And I said, "No, we haven't." And I don't want to put this on her, but she was walking back towards the homeless camp that we just came from. So it looked like maybe she might have been on hard times, or maybe been displaced or homeless. And when I got in the car and I was talking to Maine about it, I was saying, "Man, this is messed up," because if anybody loses their wallet, they're going to be distraught. They're going to be upset and frustrated. But if that's really all you have, like you you are homeless, or you are on experiencing bad times or in a bad place, and that's all you have, this is devastating. This is one of those life altering events that can very well shift things. And if she wasn't homeless, consider in the situation, it's today is the second. So we don't know when that is. It's rent and it's mortgage time. So we never know. And then on top of it, if she was displaced, if she was homeless, then guess what? Her ID is in there, maybe her social security card, her driver's license, things that you would need to be able to secure a job or suitable employment. We talked about the real reason why the homeless don't get a job was the first live that we had. And we have this list of things, as you can see here. And I like to use the holding the sign bit, because a lot of people say, well, they can just hold the sign, that's working. Why can't they get a job holding up a sign at Little Caesars or one of the little nail places or the Supercuts or whatever the case is? And what you don't know is that that's still a job. So that means that you have to go through the same type of hiring process that you would for any other job. It may not be as stringent, but you still are going to have at least the basic requirements. So we talked about the application, the driver's license, the social security card, the employment history, a birth certificate, possibly a work permit. Maybe you're going to have to pass a background check, a drug test. You may need transportation to get to that location if your homeless camp is not by that particular location. Once you get the job, we talked about the cost of living, about how more of a one bedroom apartment is about $1,500, and then if you do the math, if you're making $10 an hour from holding a sign, that amount that you see is how much you'd have after working 40 hours in a week, and then after paying for a basic apartment room, because you probably couldn't afford a one bedroom, you have to get one of those studio apartment rooms. We've got all of that broken down in there, so, and you still have to eat. So after you do all of that, you're going to come out in the rear negative $46, even if you had a job. And we see people in this community often that have jobs, and it still simply isn't enough. So the truth of the matter is, one of the reasons why we help is because getting a job is just not going to be enough. Some of them have jobs, some of them are gainfully employed, and they still need a kindness. All right, maybe they are taking care of lots of the business and they haven't eaten. They don't have cold water because they're living underground. They're living in tents, right? So getting a job alone isn't enough. So this is one of the reasons why we help, because being gainfully employed ourselves, we understand that we have a difficult time being able to pay our bills. My landlord reached out to me today while we were giving. I'm transparent, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. I won't lie to you. While we were giving, he reached out and said, "Hey, what's up on that? What's up on that rent, man?" I said, "Hey, wait a minute. It's not the fifth yet." So it's getting a job is not enough. We have a tough time maintaining all of our bills and all of our utilities and our way of living. And we are both gainfully employed, both work 2 jobs. And at the end of the day, getting a job is not enough. All right. The next reason why is being homeless is an arrestable crime. So being homeless is a arrestable crime. So what does that have to do with why you help? Because being homeless is criminalized. If you remember a few weeks ago, if you joined us, if you didn't, all of our lives are in our folder for live streams. You guys can check them out. I know they may not be as sophisticated as some folks, but we're only 5 in, and we'll get better over time. But the content that we have is always solid, and we make sure that we do our research and we do our homework just the same. So a few weeks ago, we did one. If you haven't seen it, check it out, where we talked about the criminalization of homelessness. And if you haven't heard, there's a Supreme Court is going to hear a case on a situation that took place in Grant Pass, Oregon. It says it has enforced ordinances that bar the use of blankets, pillows, and even cardboard boxes while sleeping within the city. So being homeless, if you haven't known about this or you're not aware, this is a big situation that has worked its way all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is going to hear a case about this because it's starting in Grants Pass, but cracking down all over in the various cities and states about making homelessness. It's already been illegal as it is, but they're ramping it up with fines. They're ramping it up with arresting people. And this is huge because of the fact that now these individuals, on top of having to contend with the various temperatures, like right now it's like 109, 110 degrees outside, trying to search for food, trying to search for cold water, and places where they are able to be sheltered, where they're able to sleep. And then there's also a lot of criminal elements and activity going on. They also have to hide and worry about the police too. So this is something else. And we live downtown, on Fremont, downtown Las Vegas, and I'll be in my room sleep, and I'll hear, because there's a homeless community right in front of our loft area, and we'll hear the police on the horn pull up and then yell at everybody to clear up and get their stuff up and start moving. And they call those sweeps. And they randomly go through and they sweep. So these people have a lot to be able to deal with. And when you ask why it is that we help, there's various reasons why. The first one, like I said, getting a job is not enough. Many of them are employed, and that's just not enough to be able to make it. They still need additional help. And then being homeless is a crime. So that means that these individuals, they have a lot to worry about and contend with. And if we can go by and bless them with the meal, or bless them with some water or some clothes, we try our best to do that. If you look at any of our shorts or our segments, you'll see there's some of them where there have been people. Recently, there was an older lady that said the police come by and they take their possessions, they take their belongings. So during the sweep, what a sweep is that they go through the homeless. They don't just find individual places where they set up. They create a homeless community or an encampment. So when one person sees that somebody's set up over here, they say, hey, we're going to set up over here too. And before you know it, one tent or cardboard box or person sleeping on the streets turns into 12, and it turns to 15, and it does get out of control. I can understand people's frustration about the situation, because it can be frustrating at times. So the police, when they see this, they have a responsibility, or some people may phone it in to them, but they have a responsibility to get them off of people's private property or from people's property. So they sweep them. So they give them a certain amount of time to get their belongings and be able to move. Now, remember, they're homeless. So this is their house. This is the equivalent of you having to move your house. So someone like the constable or somebody locking you out and saying, you have 30 minutes to get everything that you need together and move. And these people, they accumulate a lot of stuff, in a little bit of time. So they have their baskets, they have their tents, they have their blankets, and a lot of them, they're malnutrition. A lot of them, they're elderly. A lot of them, they're weak. They have a lot of things going on. They have very poor, medical condition. And, at the end of that, it takes them a while. So the police sits there in their car and they wait. And then at the 30-minute mark, then they start going out there and they start getting them out there. And they'll take their belongings and they won't return it to them, even though they're supposed to. Maine says she's seen it before where they have a bulldozer waiting. And they go through some of these areas with bulldozers. And they bulldoze the stuff out of the way. So these people lose their stuff. They lose their stuff. So because being homeless is against the law, the criminalization of homelessness is against the law, then these people lose a lot of stuff. So when we go into communities and we help with food and we help with water, that's one less thing that they have to worry about. And then a lot of times by us taking clothes, we only do the clothes on the holidays, but then it still does help them because they lose things as well in the process. So this is another reason why we make sure we go out and help, because they've got enough to contend with, not just worrying about the bad guys on the streets, but now they have to worry about the police as well. And also, just to drop this in for free, also, keep in mind that if they're arrested, this makes it even more difficult for them to be able to secure a job. So keep that in mind. Number three, most Americans, we talked about this, I believe it was last week maybe, most Americans are one paycheck away from being homeless. So most Americans are one paycheck away from being homeless. And this is scary, and we saw the statistics last week. Again, feel free to go back through our folder, our playlist, and be able to look at some of our previous live streams. It's talked about the definition of homelessness definition of living paycheck to paycheck. So most Americans are one paycheck away from being homeless because they're living paycheck to paycheck. But it says the definition of living paycheck to paycheck, the term living paycheck to paycheck gets thrown around a lot. We're talking about money, but what does it mean? For the purposes of the survey, living paycheck to paycheck describes a financial scenario in which an individual or family's income barely covers essential living expenses like housing, utilities, groceries, and transportation. One missed paycheck would put someone living paycheck to paycheck in a difficult spot. So the reason we do this is because we realize that because most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, where that means they're one paycheck away from being homeless, which means that these people that's out here could be individuals that were or are gainfully employed, like we talked about, and just had a rough stint. And then before you know it, boom, they're right in this situation. They're right in this situation of homelessness. And we think that's important. Excuse me. We think that's important because it can be us, and we're going to talk about that in a second as well. But these are individuals that may be trying. They are individuals that are, doing the best that they can do, and the cost of living has gone up. Maybe their cars went down. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. So we're getting out of that situation, thank God. But we were and kind of still are. We're on the verge of getting out of the situation, living paycheck to paycheck. And based on what we saw, this just basically means that if any unfortunate event happens or any calamity, in other words, your car goes down, you get a flat tire, your battery goes out on your car, you get sick and you have to miss some work time, somebody gets cancer, somebody hurts their back on the job. Any of these things happen, any single thing happen that was not planned for, that you have to use your finance or it can affect your finances, this means that you could potentially be in a difficult spot and then you can essentially be homeless. So when we go out and we help these people, we understand that not everybody that's in the streets are addicts. Not everybody that's in the streets are bad people or drug addicts or gambling addicts or robbers, thieves, or people who mismanage or misallocated their funds. These are people that may have been able to save money because of the fact that they were living paycheck to paycheck and something happened. We've spoken to multiple individuals who were able to tell and share stories about things that has transpired that got them into this particular situation. And this is why we help, because we realize that it's not always just people making poor decisions in life that gets them to this position. It says a 2023 survey conducted by payroll.org highlighted that 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, a 6% increase from the previous year. In other words, more than 3/4 of Americans struggle to save or invest after paying their monthly expenses, right? So again, another reason why we help is because we know that most Americans are one paycheck away from being homeless, all right? And that brings us to the next situation, or the next reason why, is because a twist of fate, and it could be us. A twist of fate, and it can be us. Remember, I just talked about if your car went down, happened to us. If you got sick and you had to miss some time from work or quit your job, happened to us. If you were supposed to get unemployment and you were denied for it, happened to us, right? If anything happened, if somebody gets cancer, if somebody gets injured on the job, they hurt their back, whatever the case might be, a twist of fate, and that could very well be you. Now, many of us don't believe that. We say, oh, I got somebody I can stay with, I got somebody I can borrow from, I got a couple dollars saved to the side. That's fine. But the cost of living is very expensive, and there's only so long that you can lean on somebody else. And some of these people who are here, they travel here to follow a dream. They travel here for work. They travel here with nobody else they can call on, and they're stuck and they're stranded here. So I understand that we don't have a lot of family and friends here. I'm not from here. I'm from Detroit. So we have developed some bonds and friendships, and there's a couple of friends and family that moved down here with us. But hey, guess what? I can't stay with those people forever. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing so. And a twist of fate, and it can be you, on the streets. And I would want somebody to do what it is that we're doing if we were in that situation, right? So I have to be that example, and I have to plant those seeds and sow those seeds, because I believe that this can be anybody, anybody. Next, we're getting through these, guys. Hope isn't coming, all right? Hope isn't coming, all right? This is important to understand. There's no help coming. We've waited long enough on the government to do what it is that they're supposed to do. And at the end of the day, we see that they just simply haven't. There's outreach shelters here. A lot of these things, these shelters and these outreaches and these soup kitchens, I don't mean to generalize and speak negatively about them as a whole, but a lot of these they have money from the government that they have to allocate these funds for, and they're using it for that purpose. But that's the extent of it. In other words, outreach is here because it's being funded to be here, right? They give these homeless people a hard time. Homeless people give them a hard time too. I get it. Trust me, I do. But a lot of them really aren't all that sympathetic to the cause. They're really not that helpful as far as providing resources. And they just aren't kind, And I've heard some stories from just a couple people about their experience in dealing with these outreach centers, and they give them some very strict and stringent requirements to be able to stay there, And I do get it because we have a very vast homeless community and everybody's trying to get in and everybody's trying to get over and everybody's trying to take advantage of the system. But they got funds that they have to spend and they have to use them for. So that's what they're there for. But they're not going to go out of their way to be helpful. And they're definitely not going to do a great job of going into the neighborhoods and helping. There's a few places and organizations that do. There's one right across the street from our house. There's a little VA apartment complex. And I think it'll be like Wednesday or something early in the morning. They go out there and then they give food and water out. And you'll see the homeless people lined up all the way down the street. One of the outreaches, not far from us, maybe about 10 minutes, the homeless people sleep in front of that, and then they get into this line and they go in and sleep for the night if they can make it in there. And then we'll see occasionally a van ride up and down certain streets, and they're giving food out every so often. But at the end of the day, we have to be the change that we want to see. And you hear me say that quite a bit, because there is all this big, this big barrage of help that we think is going to be coming in. Out of nowhere, this gigantic helicopter is going to come and just drop meals and waters from the sky. This big, tank or whatever that we think is going to roll up, and just say, hey, I got food and it's going to solve this problem. It's not coming. Hope's not on the way. The government has had years to be able to get this situation under control. I'm not saying it's their fault, but I am saying that there are resources that's supposed to be set aside to be able to help with the situation. And no help is coming. Help isn't on the way. A lot of these funds are being mismanaged. There's been misallocated. A lot of it's going towards greedy politicians or people with not great intentions, and they're padding their pocket, so they can get bigger checks. And they're just writing the homeless people off. And we have to go out and we have to do what we can do to be able to help and fill that gap. And the videos that we shoot are to inspire other people and give them the courage and help them understanding to debunk some of the myths that they may have, show them that you don't have to be from a wealthy place or situation to go out and give out some dinners or some sandwiches, some waters, some cold waters or whatever. And then hopefully if we can all go out and we can all contribute instead of waiting for the government to come by in this big gigantic parade where they come through and they take care of the whole world, little by little we can invoke change ourselves by doing little things to be able to help out and then encourage other people to do so too. So another reason that we help is because we know nobody else is going to if we don't, right? We've seen it. We see these people laying out. I saw an ambulance in front of my house recently because it got so hot that somebody had passed out, and I don't know if they passed away or not, God forbid, but help isn't coming. So this is another reason why. And then last but not least, right, it's because it's the humane thing to do. Right? I believe that this is the humane thing to do. Notice I didn't say it's the right thing to do. I don't believe there's any right or wrong. By saying it's the right thing to do, it means that you're wrong by not helping. That may not be what's dropped in your spirit to be able to do, to go out and be able to feed other people. But we believe that it's the humane thing to do to help people that's in need because we're humans and we try to appeal to the human side of people first. So what I meant by that also is by saying that maybe it's not dropping your spirit to go out and help, but there's multiple ways of helping. You can donate, to an outreach that's in your community or someone like us that's going out and doing something because you don't have the time to do it. Maybe it's not your interest to be able to do. Maybe you're afraid to do it. So you can invest, you can donate, you can, go out and volunteer at a soup kitchen if you don't want to go out to the community. But everybody does not have the capacity or the passion or they feel the need to go out in the community and do what it is that myself do and so many other people that's giving out. You guys see there's a lot of people that have YouTube channels that's giving out to homeless people and helping, and that's just not for everybody. I get it. I talk to a couple people and they say, hey, we think what you're doing great, but that's just not in our spirit to do, but we're happy that you're doing it. And then some of the people, they'll donate clothes, they'll donate food or whatever they can, and that's understandable. But we believe we help. The reason why we do it is because we believe it's a humane thing to do. If I see a person that's in need, I'm going to help. Most times we'll help an animal before we'll help, and Maine says this all the time, before we help a human. So if you're riding down the street and you see a dog that's laid or is limping because his legs broke or is laid there and is whining or it looks pathetic, I've done it before. I've been driving down the street and there was a poodle walking across the street. He had been hit, and there was little poodle's leg was broken. He was dragging his leg. He had blood all over his white fur. And people are, this is a main street that was in Detroit. This was a long time ago. People were swerving around the dog, and I stopped traffic, and I got out, and I picked the dog up, and I put it in there in the back of my, I had an Astro van. I put in the Astro van back, and I drove it to the Michigan Humane Society, and the dog was in bad shape. And I understand, like he probably, they give it, sometimes they give a medical treatment, sometimes they don't. And if the dog doesn't get adopted in a certain amount of days, then they do whatever they do with it. I don't know. I don't want to get into that, but I wanted to help because the dog had already been hit, and folks would have just kept running it over. Had it not made it across the street, because this is a huge street, or had somebody like myself and I stopped and help. We're compassionate and empathetic, and the reason why is because we say, well, a dog, can't go out and work. Dog can, they can't help themselves. They're an animal, So we have a rationalization behind why we would hope and feel compassionate about an animal. But a human being, somebody that is just like you, they have a heartbeat, they have a, lungs, and they have a soul, if you believe in that, and then whatever else, and they thirst like you do, they hunger like you do. But because you don't feel like that they've met the requirements that you feel necessary, you don't feel like you feel like they're lazy, or they didn't get a job, or they should be working, or they should be begging, we'll ride right past those people and we won't help. It's important to understand that helping isn't always financial. We never give money. We've never given money to any of them. We never, every now and again, if I see a person, aside from the mission aside, if I see a person that's standing on the street corner asking for money, I'll give them loose change if I have it. I keep changing my car for that reason. But I'm talking about we go out and we actually do this mission that we're doing. We never give money. And what's interesting enough is that they've never asked for it. All right. We've done 44 segments of the GBI, the Give Back Initiative, and not once has anyone asked me for money. They're just grateful for the food and they're grateful for the water. So a lot of times we try to say, oh, I'm not going to support their habit. We're not talking about that. The main thing to do is to give them something to eat and drink, because as human beings, we know that not only do we want to eat and drink, but we need to do so in order to be able to continue to live. So when I say it's the main thing to do as a human being, understanding human functions and what's needed to continue to live as a human, we feel like it's the least that we can do to help. Now, that's one thing they don't have to worry about. They may not eat again that day. They may not eat again that week. We don't know. We went out and we were able to help somebody, in a time of need, and just do this because we feel that it's the humane thing to do. All right. So these are the reasons why we help. We started off by talking about, number one, getting the job is not enough. All right. Next, that being homeless is an arrestable crime, and these people have to contend with the people on the streets, with the police as well, and worry about all of those different elements. Number three is because most Americans, even us, are one paycheck away from being homeless, one series of unfortunate events, one calamity away. All right, which means that number four, a twist of fate, and it can be us. I would want somebody to come out and help us the same way that we're helping individuals. It's important to realize that number five, hope isn't coming. Governments had years. This is an epidemic. It's a crisis, right? It's a crisis. It's the homeless crisis. It's growing. The cost of living is getting up, and people are struggling more and having a much more difficult time of being able to manage their financial resources to be able to continue to live in a house, an apartment, wherever. Because in addition to just paying rent, you have to also be able to pay bill, you have to pay gas bill, you have to pay, you have to eat, you have to wash, you have to do so many different things, internet, whatever it is. So there's a lot of other things other than just paying rent, and help isn't coming. So we just try to help as best we can. And last but not least, it's the humane thing to do. I'm a human being. I thirst. I hunger. They're human beings. They hurt. They thirst. They hunger as well. And we just want to try our best to be able to go out, and help how we can. We see these individuals laying out, in the middle of the sidewalk or the street or in a box. I know these people need help. They don't have to walk up to me and ask me. I can clearly see it. So as a human being, I like to help. We like to help however we can and whenever we can. We'd like to thank you guys for joining us. All right. This one's short, but again, I do these to be able to address some of the questions that I see, some of the comments that I see, because people, they have a a misinterpretation of many people's missions and their message. I see some of these people on TikTok and on YouTube walk up and they're giving people $500, and I think that's an amazing. I wish we were in a position to be able to do that, but giving them that is helpful, and I don't know what they're going to do with it. And sometimes they have follow-ups where they go back on them and they say they'll see this person and they'll say, "Oh, I went and bought some clothes. I was able to get a job, and I was able to start a new life." That's possible, but giving them $500 is as helpful as it would be to those individuals. They can buy money. I mean, food to eat. I don't know if it'll get them off the streets because of all of the things that we discussed, but that isn't our mission. That isn't what we do. And I'm not trying to speak against that and discourage it. What I am saying, though, is that what we do is we help with an immediate need that we know that person has, which is food and water. Yep, $500, they can buy a lot of food. They can buy a lot of water. But this is our mission and what we feel. And this is one of the reasons why we help. Okay? Or some of the reasons why we help. So hopefully this answers that for those people who put those comments and that were interested in knowing. And, we love the comments. So keep on dropping those comments down. As I said, as we continue our lives, we'll get the hang of it, right? But we want to make sure that we engage with you guys as frequently as possible, and also be able to try to answer some of the comments and some of the questions that you guys may have, shed some light on some things that you guys may not know about or understand, who are interested in people who are in the homeless community. I know there's a lot of rumors, a lot of misconceptions that goes around, and we just like to address those things. And we like to use this platform with the lives to do so. Thank you guys so much. I look forward to seeing you guys next week, and God bless you all. Peace.